Welcome to Decoding Superhuman. This show is a deep dive into obsessions with performance and how to improve the human experience. Twice a week, I explore the latest science, technology, and tactics with experts in various fields of human optimization. I'm your host, Boomer Anderson. Enjoy the journey. Superhumans. It's Boomer Anderson, and today we are discussing all things algae. My guest today is Catharine Arnston, and Catharine has a 30-year career as an international attaché for the Canadian and British governments. Not only that, but she was the publisher of an international magazine and the founder of 3 startups. But in 2009, when Catharine's sister got diagnosed with breast cancer, Catharine decided to grab the bull by the horns and become an expert in all things algae. Today is a deep dive into chlorella, spirulina, and the benefits of both. We talk about Catharine's background and specifically why her sister's diet influenced her to really start researching algae. We talk about processing and why that matters. Fasting, keto, do these algae affect those? And the benefits. Oh, the benefits. The show notes for this one are at decodingsuperhuman.com/ENERGYbits. And Catharine has been really generous to you guys with a discount. So you're going to want to check that one out. Again, show notes for this one are decodingsuperhuman.com/ENERGYbits. And enjoy my episode with Catharine Arnston. Catharine, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me here. Great way to start my day.
Yeah, this is fantastic. It's a conversation which has not been had yet on this podcast, and I'm really looking forward to diving into the topic of algae with you. So, shall we get started?
Oh, sure. And, be careful because I could talk about this for days, but I'll try to, keep it concise. I got 10 years of knowledge to pour out to you and your listeners.
And as the listener base knows, I can talk for days about this stuff too. So I'll just keep asking questions and eventually we'll call it quits.
Okay.
But
fire away.
Let's start with the basics. What is algae and why should it be a part of a human's diet?
Well, hopefully by the end of this podcast, people will be asking themselves, not why should they take algae, but why shouldn't they? So let me give you the big picture first. Algae is a food group. We have vegetables and fruit. Algae is a food category. So that's number one. It is not a supplement. Supplements are made in labs from artificial ingredients and from extracts. Algae is a crop that is grown in water. So it's called hydroponically. So it's no different than kale or tomatoes that may be grown in water. So that's the most important thing that people understand, that algae is food. It's a food crop, and it's a category of food. Then within, let's take fruit, for example. You may have different types of fruit. You have bananas and apples. Well, within the algae kingdom, you have different types of algae. And the 2 main categories are seaweeds, and the 2 main ones are red seaweed and brown. And the other category is microalgae. And the 2 main microalgae are blue-green and green. Okay, with me so far?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I'm tracking.
Okay, within the microalgae, blue-green and green categories, just like with apples, you have Macintosh and Granny. So again, they keep subdividing. So within the microalgae, blue-green, green, you have blue-green. One of the blue-green algae is spirulina. And one of the green algae is chlorella. And the reason why this is so important for people to understand is that these are the 2 that are harvested for crops. These are carefully cultivated in water. Not everybody cultivates them and grows them as carefully and pristinely as we do, but these are the 2 that are grown. But very often you'll go online and you'll read about blue-green algae toxicity, or there's some studies that with blue-green algae, and I can promise you, absolutely, without a doubt, I don't even have to look at anything, that whatever algae they were using came from an ocean, a lake, a swamp, a swimming pool, because the vast majority of algae is grown wild in all of these other places. And of course, they will be toxic because algae absorbs whatever's in the water. If you take a glass of water from a swamp, it's going to be full of garbage. If you take algae out of the ocean or a swamp, it's going to be full of garbage. It's exactly the same thing. So don't panic when you ever read anything online about, algae being toxic. It's only if it is wild. It's the only time I can think of when food that is grown wild is not good for you, because you always hear about mushrooms and all these other things. It's better to be grown wild. Not when it comes to algae. You do not want algae wild. So it's a food, but it has to be carefully cultivated. And the two main ones, as I said, in the blue-green category is spirulina, and in the green category is chlorella. And if you'd like, I can go dive in now, the difference between the two, or I can do that later.
I want to table that for 1 second, because there is this common misconception, or I guess maybe among people who are inexperienced with these, algae versus seaweed. Can we just discuss the differences there? I mean, obviously you talked a little bit about the cultivation process, but I would just like to understand a little bit more. Sure.
Well, seaweed comes from the ocean, and cultivated algae is grown in fresh water. Algae does grow in the ocean, but you don't want that one. The main difference between the two of them is seaweed is predominantly very heavy in fiber, and microalgae has virtually no fiber. And that's why it's ketogenic, because it also has no carbs. It's perfect for ketogenic diets and fasting, etc. So seaweed has high fiber. It has iodine because it comes from the ocean, and it has much lower nutritional value. Microalgae is just high test nutrition, concentrated, virtually no fiber. It's like if think of seaweed as maybe your child's bicycle, and microalgae as a rocket ship nutritionally. Because there's no comparison. You could eat a room full of seaweed and not even get less than 1% of the nutrients that you would get from a handful of algae. It's crazy. But the microalgae that's harvested in most cases has either zero or virtually no iodine, which is important. Iodine is an important nutrient for people's health. But so that's the basic difference. Tons of fiber versus no fiber, not much nutrients versus incredible. I call algae not just a superfood, but a super duper food.
So let's talk a little bit about those super duper foods, because you mentioned the blue-green form as well as the green form. And I want to go into each of those specifically. Happy to start with whichever one you're most comfortable with, but let's jump into it.
Okay. Well, let's do it chronologically. So most people will not know that algae, especially blue-green algae like spirulina, was the first life on Earth almost 4 billion years ago. Before spirulina, Earth was just gas and water. I have no idea what caused the spirulina to start growing, but it did, and they have fossils that are carbon dated to like 3.5 billion years ago. By the way, we've been only on the planet for about 800 million. And so algae's been here 4 times longer than humans. And algae releases oxygen as it grows. In fact, it provides 80% of the oxygen on Earth. It's not the Amazon forest, it's algae. So after about 1 billion years, there was enough oxygen on Earth that other life forms could grow. And chlorella was the next one that started growing, and then life moved on. So spirulina, let's get back to it. So technically, interestingly, spirulina is really a bacteria. It does not have a cellulose wall, and it does not have a nucleus. It's called a cyanobacteria. And there's a couple of really interesting reasons why that is important. So it doesn't have any of the negative downsides of plants, because it doesn't have either. It also doesn't, nor does chlorella, oxalates, phytic acid, lectins, none of those anti-nutrients. And we can talk about that later on. But what it does have is the richest source of protein in the world. The Germans won a Nobel Prize for discovering this back in around 1917. Ours has 64%. It ranges from 60 to low 60s and high 60s. This is the most concentrated source of protein. And not only is it concentrated, it's plant protein. So, vegans, vegetarians, it's available to everybody. And as I mentioned, it has no carbs. So it's great for the ketogenic. And also it's, can't get any more paleo than being the first life on Earth. So I say algae plays well in the sandbox with everybody. It meets every single food lifestyle that's out there. So very high in protein, 40 vitamins and minerals. So this has all the potassium, magnesium that you need. It's loaded in B vitamins. In fact, it has so many B vitamins and has all these wonderful nutrients that work so cooperatively and synergistically that it gives you energy. That's why we call our algae spirulina, ENERGYbits, because it gives you so much energy, both mentally and physically. So it gets absorbed very quickly because it has no cellulose wall. There's nothing for your body to break down. That's why our first customers were actually athletes, triathletes, marathon runners, Olympic athletes, because they had been using, carb-based products to fuel them in a race. So like goo and bars and, Gatorades, all which are loaded with sugar. So that if you're keto, forget it. But those all cause stomach distress, diarrhea, gas. It's not pretty. None of that happens with the spirulina, because it gets absorbed so quickly, and literally it's in your digestive system within minutes if you chew it, seconds if you chew it almost, and within about 5 minutes, completely digested within about 5 minutes. So it's very efficient nutrition. It gets into your bloodstream very quickly. And by the way, all that protein's already in amino acid form. So there's no work for your body to break down the protein to get access to the aminos. And all the other minerals and vitamins like all the Bs like B12 are attached to the aminos, so they get absorbed very quickly. So it's also very, very high in essential fatty acids, including the omega-3. So again, if you're vegan or if you're concerned about sustainability, this is the answer to your omega-3 needs and your brain health needs, because algae is the most sustainable crop in the world, and it has all the essential fatty acids that your brain needs for functioning. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Before we jump into chlorella, because there's a lot of good questions to come around detoxification on this, but also spirulina, in terms of the amino acid profile, is it a complete amino acid profile, or are there things that it's a little bit less in than others?
Yes, it's a complete protein. It has 18 of the 20 aminos, all the BCAAs, of course, and it has very high bioavailability. Eggs are always considered sort of one of the perfect proteins because it does get absorbed quickly, and it has also a complete protein profile. There's a couple of problems with eggs. If you're vegan, you're kind of out of luck, number one. They do contain a lot of sulfur, which can cause gas and bloating, and I personally, I love eggs. So, I don't want to be, dissing eggs because it's a great food. But it doesn't have any chlorophyll. And when you eat the algae, whether it's spirulina or chlorella, you get all the benefits of eggs, plus you get chlorophyll. And we're going to talk a little bit about chlorophyll, about how it is like the missing, I think it's the key to so much that's causing health issues. So loving eggs, I don't know if when you were a kid, if you read Dr. Seuss, but there was a book, Green Eggs and Ham, and I'm convinced that he must have made his eggs with algae, because that's the only thing that would make them green.
Not the food coloring stuff, right? Yeah.
So it is. So both the algae, particularly spirulina, are complete algae or complete protein, and very bioavailable, probably 99% bioavailable, because of this rapid absorption, because there's no cellulose wall, and because your body doesn't have to work to digest it. It just gets absorbed. And if you chew it sublingually, it gets absorbed even faster. So it's really crazy in terms of, and by the way, the United Nations in 1974 had a global conference on spirulina and identified it as the answer to world hunger because of the protein. and because it is so sustainable. And I can send you the papers about the conference, and they've been so bullish about spirulina ever since, and that was like 40 years ago. So algae is going to change the world, and I just happen to be, I'm 10 years in doing this, but I'm still very, very much at the front end, and I can't wait for the rest of the world to wake up to the benefits of algae.
We're going to come back to that point on the UN a little bit later. Let's talk chlorella and just some of the health benefits here, because I know it's used quite frequently in areas like heavy metal detoxification, for instance.
You bet.
Can we chat just a little bit on chlorella?
Okay. So remember, blue-green spirulina was a blue-green algae, first life on Earth, high protein, energizing. And by the way, that second, it's called a blue-green algae because there are two pigments in spirulina. One is the green pigment, which is chlorophyll that most people know about. And there's another pigment called phycocyanin that's blue. And if you put a little tablet in a plate, and the color that will come out of it is like an Aegean Sea. It is so beautiful. But chlorella only has one pigment. It's the chlorophyll. But what's so amazing about chlorella is it has the highest concentration of chlorophyll in the world. Remember, spirulina has the highest concentration of protein. Chlorella has the highest chlorophyll. So much so that it has 25 times more than liquid chlorophyll, which of course is made from alfalfa sprouts, 25 times more than wheatgrass, 1,000 times more than like Chinese lettuce, 200 times more than spinach. I mean, it is a rock star when it comes to chlorophyll. So you say to yourself, so what's so important about chlorophyll? Well, chlorophyll is a fat-based pigment. The blue in spirulina is a water-based pigment. We can talk about that later on. But what's so important about that? Well, all of your health issues stem to kind of three main things: your gut, the health of your cell walls, so the mitochondria can be looked after, and your liver. And chlorophyll heals all three. But let's talk about the cell wall, especially because of the fat piece. So I say that if your cells aren't healthy and the nutrients can't get in and toxins can't get out, and we've always heard people saying, "Oh, well, so such and such is cleansing." Well, what exactly does that mean? Well, I'm going to tell you what that means. Chlorophyll. Consider when you have windows that are dirty, right? You can't see out, and sunlight can't get in. Not a good situation. Cells are the same way. If they're not healthy, nutrients can't get in and toxins can't get out. Chlorophyll, consider chlorophyll like your window washers, because it's so healing to the cell walls and buffs them up with the fat that nutrients can get in and toxins can get out. That's what cleansing is. And because if they don't get the toxins out, they start damaging the mitochondria. If the nutrients can't get in, you're not getting ATP. Then you start getting rogue cells, which lead to cancer cells. They can't communicate, and it's just a slippery slope after that. So chlorophyll is so important. But here's the problem. Our soils are so nutrient deprived that even if you eat organic, it is really hard to get your chlorophyll needs met by what's in our food supply. So that's why chlorella is just like the answer to everything, because, and I'm going to tell you more about why, because it has even more amazing attributes. It has all of this rich chlorophyll. 10% of chlorophyll only gets absorbed in your stomach. The rest of it travels through your liver and down through your gut and your colon. So it's cleansing and absorbing toxins all the way down. And an interesting fact I read was back in World War I, if they ran out of blood transfusions for the injured during the war, they would give them liquid chlorophyll because it would help them heal just as fast as a blood transfusion. And I used to wonder about this until I discovered why. And you're welcome to do this, or I can send you this image. The chemical composition of chlorophyll is virtually identical to your hemoglobin. It's exactly the same composition. The only difference is that chlorophyll has a magnesium atom in the middle, and your hemoglobin has a iron atom in the middle. And that iron atom is what carries oxygen in your blood. So it's very, very important. But that, I tell people, that's got to be a tip-off how important chlorophyll is to your health and to your vitality, because it's virtually identical. So again, chlorella has the highest concentration of chlorophyll. So let's talk about some of the other attributes of chlorella. The other main one that you mentioned, which is so incredible, is that it has the ability to pull out toxins of any kind, all the heavy metals, mercury, lead, radiation. It also pulls out alcohol for anybody who's interested. You're sober in an hour and a half, and you'll never have a hangover. It also pulls out lactic acid. So athletes love it as a post-workout. They use the spirulina as a pre-workout to give them energy and focus. And then the chlorella pulls out the lactic acid so their muscles aren't sore. So what is it that's doing this? Well, remember I said spirulina has no cellulose wall, and it's not really, it's like technically a bacteria. Chlorella has the hardest cellulose wall in the plant kingdom. And it's that hard cellulose wall that attaches to the toxins. It's also called an adaptogen because it can detect what's supposed to be there and what's not. A lot of people use activated charcoal to pull out toxins, but the problem with activated charcoal is that it pulls out all minerals. So now you're depleting your body of everything. And chlorella is not like that. In fact, it's loaded with 40 vitamins and minerals. It only pulls out the bad boys, and it populates you with the good minerals, magnesium, potassium, phosphorus, calcium, all the good stuff. I call it intelligent food because it can make that distinction between what needs to be removed and what should stay there. I read a report a number of years ago. I wish I kept the source. I don't have it. But they were just studying, and I think that they were using chlorella. They were using algae as a vehicle for delivering chemotherapy treatments. So I don't know whether they gave the patient the treatment orally or injected, but they put the chemo treatment in the algae. The algae would find the tumor and attach to it to deliver the chemo treatment. Because that's the problem with chemotherapy. It kills everything, right? But the algae could find the places where it should go to deliver the chemo. So that's got to be something. That's really special. I mean, I just don't know how that even happens. But that's why I call it intelligent food. So in addition to that, chlorella has your daily requirement of K2, and we can talk more about the importance of K2 and why everybody is short of it. And there's only about two food sources, and grass-fed animal protein or chlorella. There's a little bit in spirulina, but really chlorella. It has 40 vitamins and minerals. It has the highest concentration of RNA and DNA in the world. And as you get older, this is very important because your RNA and DNA get damaged, and so this helps you grow, continue living without as much, cellular damage. It has also has something called chlorella growth factor, which speeds up the growth of your cells. So chlorella is a healing algae. We call ours ENERGYbits because it helps you recover your health, or it helps you recover from fitness, or it helps you recover from your day. It pulls out the toxins. We are so bombarded with toxins. Every single person in the world should be taking chlorella every single day. There have been 80,000 chemicals released in our world since World War II. Our immune systems were not built to support this kind of toxic load. And even if it's just incrementally a little bit of toxin here, a little bit of toxin there, it all gathers in your cells and in your organs and in your brain. Alzheimer's, are realizing, is often caused by accumulated aluminum. Same with thyroid issues, a lot of food disorders and autoimmune. It's toxins and inflammation are really causing so much of this, and you've got to get them out. So if you want something that's natural, remember chlorella is a food and it's harvested cleanly, at least ours is. And we work with biological dentists because they pull up mercury in mammograms, and once I sort of wrap up with chlorella, I want to tell you why our chlorella is special and clean because of this broken cell wall situation. Loaded with chlorophyll, detoxing, healing, cleansing. It's very much a recovery wellness algae, completely different from spirulina. And you should be taking both of them because they do completely different things. You can take them together, separate, instead of food, with food. Oh, and the other magical thing about chlorella is it actually tastes pretty good. Most people do not like the flavor of spirulina, and I get that. Because it's very chewy because of the protein and the essential fatty acids. It's kind of got this earthy, it's really a hard flavor and it's really not, although kids like it because it turns their tongue green. Chlorella, on the other hand, tastes like a sunflower seed or a soy nut, and it's very dry and crunchy. And whenever I go to conferences, I take sea salt and macadamia nuts with me, and I make people try them together. when you have the chlorella with a little bit of sea salt and a couple of macadamia nuts in your mouth together, you close your eyes, you think you're eating potato chips. I mean, it doesn't work with spirulina, just the chlorella, but you can also eat it with almonds or banana chips or whatever you want. Chlorella, we're going to make it into trail mix. It's unbelievable. So now it's not just a healthy snack, it's truly a healing snack. So I really encourage people to try eating the chlorella because it's much more satisfying if you're eating something than swallowing it, because we do want you to have at least 10, 15, or 20, and if you can, make 30 a day. But chlorella is, man, it's my, I couldn't live without it. I just couldn't live without it.
This is super exciting, and I'm really glad that we're having this conversation because I'm just excited. But
yeah,
Catharine, how did you get into this? Because this is like a very interesting, niche world within the health space. How did you come into algae?
Yeah, well, I certainly wasn't planning on this. I am Canadian, and all my education was in Canada. And I did an MBA in international business. And I was, I was a publisher of an interior design magazine. I had various, careers, but all in business, of course. And then in Canada, my younger sister developed breast cancer. She's fine now, but 10 years ago, and thank God for this, her oncologist told her she should change her diet to an alkaline diet because it would help her with her healing. She was going to do the chemotherapy. Now, remember, this was 10 years ago, and this knowledge of plant-based nutrition was not discussed. So this was brand new. So she got home, and they didn't tell her what it was or why it worked. They just said, you got to do this. So she called me, not that I knew anything about nutrition, but I'm a really good researcher, and I can find out anything. That's why I know so much about algae, because it's like Alice in Wonderland. Oh, it does that too? Oh, it does that too? Oh my God, I need to know more. So anyways, so I said, don't worry, I'll help you, honey. We'll figure it out. So I found out an alkaline diet was basically a plant-based diet because of all the chlorophyll and the phytonutrients that help build your immune system. And we can talk more about that later if you want. So she did go through chemo. She did change her diet. She still has a plant-based diet. And in the process of helping her, I started reading more about plant-based nutrition. By the time I got to my 10th book, I thought, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like, why doesn't anybody in America know about this? Someone should tell them. So I'm a very action-oriented person. I thought, I have no idea what to do with this, but I think I'm going to try to do something. So I gave up my 25-year corporate career. I went back to school. I didn't have time to get a registered dietitian degree. I already had 2. So I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, learned about health coaching. So I'm a certified health coach. So then I coached for a year, taught nutrition for a year, trying to get people to eat greens, and found out a very important thing. Everybody knows they should eat healthier and probably incorporate more greens, but everyone's busy, or they don't like the taste, or it's too much work, or the kids won't eat them. So how can I help people eat healthier if I can't get them to eat greens? So that I got to find something that's easy, fast, green, back to the drawing board, just doing more research. And I had an epiphany one day. What about that algae stuff I'd found for my sister? I'm just going to take another, circle back to that. Well, that was it. That was the Alice in Wonderland falling down the rabbit hole, because I started reading about algae, found out it was the multi-billion-dollar industry in Asia, where it had been used for 50 years, especially in Japan. They don't take vitamins in Japan. They only take chlorella every day. And by the way, they have the best longevity, lowest cancer rates, and best skin and hair that I can find. It's been studied for, probably 100 years. There's 100,000 studies on the efficacy of algae for everything, whether it's VO2 uptake or recovering from injury, or it's the most documented food. But here's the problem: all the scientists that have done all this research, they just talk to each other. They have not given this information to the consumers, and the packaging has been poor in America, so nobody knew about it. Nobody explained what it does. So when I saw what this stuff does and I saw the science, I decided 10 years ago I was going to spend the rest of my life, if it took that long, to get algae into the mainstream. And it will probably take at least another 10 or 20 years. So that's okay, because I don't mind. I'm doing this. I feel like I'm like a public service. This stuff, and it's eco-friendly, sustainable. It's the most sustainable crop in the world. And in fact, the White House here in America, in January of this year, issued the very first Algae Agricultural Act. They include it in the 2019 Farm Bill because even they have realized the nutrient density of algae, the importance of it to our future food supply, and that it's all grown in Asia. Virtually none of it is grown in America. So they're trying to encourage farmers through subsidies and grants to start growing algae here because it is, like I said, a game changer. We can talk more about the sustainability issues later too, if you want. So that's how I found out. I just wanted to help my sister. And then I thought, well, now I can help a few more people, and then I can help a few more. And then I was not planning on building a company, trust me. But this is my little tip to any entrepreneur or budding entrepreneur. If there's a little voice in the back of your mind or something that you just can't stop researching and you just keep asking questions and you have curiosity, follow it. Follow it. I had no idea what I was going to do when I did this. I just knew I had some knowledge and it seemed to be needed. And I just kept going with it. And I'm so proud of my company. I'm so proud of what we do. I'm so proud of what the product is. I was on Shark Tank a little while ago, and I'm meeting with Dr. Oz next week. And we're finally starting to get some lift and helping people understand what this stuff does. But 10 years is a long time to slug it out and not make any, I haven't even paid myself. So.
Yeah. I know the feeling, the entrepreneurial feeling, and I'm sure there are many people here listening that know that feeling as well.
Yeah. It's very satisfying work though, I will say, just long hours.
Let's talk about the process, because you mentioned something earlier with the cracked, I believe, cell wall, but also your process in general. Can we let's go into that, because it's unique and I want to understand why is that important?
Okay, sure. Well, remember I said spirulina has no cellulose wall, so it doesn't have to be cracked. It's only the chlorella that needs to be cracked. And the FDA in America and also Health Canada require all chlorella that's sold in North America, to have cracked cell wall. In Europe, they don't require that, but you generally want cracked cell wall, and here's why. Remember I said chlorella has the hardest cellulose wall in the plant kingdom. And so if you don't crack it, it is so hard, your body just can't absorb the nutrients. All the nutrients are inside. So there's a company called Sun Chlorella based in Japan, and about 50 years ago, I give them full credit, and I'm very honored that they did this. They started to learn about the value of chlorella as detoxing, and it took them, and it had never been grown for mass consumption back in the 50s. They were the ones. So it took them 10 years to figure out how to grow it, and they did. And then they learned about this requirement to crack chlorella. So they figured out a technique that they patented. It's called Dynamill, that cracks the cell wall of the chlorella. And what they do is they tumble the chlorella with glass beads, and that physically smashes the chlorella so that you can absorb it. But the problem is the glass heats up when it's going through this tumbling process, and there was always worry that lead from the glass would leak into the chlorella. Now they always denied that was happening, and then about 10 or 11 years ago, just before I started my company, the state of California tested their chlorella and didn't find that it had excessive amounts of lead. And they said, well, you can either put a warning on your package or stop selling in America. So they put a warning on their package that said this food group contains a substance known to cause birth defects and brain disorders.
Yikes.
Yeah. So I told my team, like how much lead is too much lead? I would say any lead. So because I'm doing this to help people be healthy, I just said, I can't do that. So I was fortunate to find a new technique that had just been developed where they pass the chlorella through a sound chamber. And so it's the vibrations that are cracking the chlorella, similar to how like an opera singer's voice crack glass. And that's the technique that we use. Now, the problem is, however, 99.99% of the entire chlorella industry uses that same technique that was developed by Sun Chlorella. So we're one of the very few companies that I know that uses this sound chamber vibrational technique to crack the chlorella. That's why The Mercury Poisoning Association wants to work with us. That's why biological dentists like to work with us. That's why we work with Dr. Dominique D'Agostino and lots of other nutritionists, because I do third-party lab tests. I do a whole series for every batch that we grow, because you were asking earlier about the cleanliness, and we grow ours in triple filtered spring mountain water because, as I mentioned earlier, algae absorbs whatever's in the water, and you do not want anything spirulina or chlorella from China, because they're not as careful and they don't really know what's going on. They put other stuff in there, and Japan still has the Fukushima issue. So Taiwan is world renowned for having the cleanest algae, period. And the company that grows ours, because it has such pure water, I feel we have the best. We are the highest quality. That's why we're always endorsed by so many professionals. But then we use this technique that's clean for the cracking of the chlorella. Then I do all these lab tests here. I also do there's only 3 labs in the world that I know that will test for neurotoxins, BMAA. I finally found one, and I knew we wouldn't have any, and sure enough, we don't have any neurotoxins because it's grown so carefully. So the cracked cell wall is important for the absorption of the nutrients. Why bother be like, I don't know, I don't know what the comparison is. You just can't absorb it. In Europe, I don't know why they don't insist on cracked cell wall. It's not a requirement, but yeah, there you go. That's what this whole cell wall thing is.
That's incredible, and thank you for your commitment to the quality. That's I love crazy. Somebody that's that thorough, because if I were to have a company, I'd want to be that thorough and diligence everything. But thank you.
Yeah, it took me a long time because I didn't come from a biochemistry or plant biology background, but I'm determined to make a difference in the world. And I knew that I had to have the answers for everything, because if I had conversations like this, and I didn't, although I will say I still don't know everything, there's always more to learn. And if I don't know anything, I will find it.
That curiosity is awesome. Let's talk about K2, because K2 is very hard to get in a typical American diet. It's also, I mean, in almost every diet, right? You think of foods like natto. Foods like natto, which are not very appealing to most Western palates as being high in K2. But K2, how can we get it from algae?
Well, let's talk about what K2 is first, because I'm sure most people don't know what it is. It was a vitamin that was only discovered about 25 years ago, and it is related to K1, which is in green plants, like kale and spinach and stuff. But we cannot convert K1 to K2. Only animals can. So what K2 does? Well, let me back up. So the issue is we're all taking calcium and we're all taking D3 to help the absorption with calcium. But here's the problem. The calcium is not being absorbed by our bones. It's getting absorbed in what's called soft tissue. Now, that includes your brain, your blood vessels, your organs, your skin, all these places you do not want excess calcium. They're realizing Alzheimer's is partly caused by calcification of the brain. Not a good thing. They're realizing heart disease is partly a calcification of your blood vessels. All that, it's called arteriosclerosis, is when your blood vessels get crunchy and immobile. That's calcium that's causing it. It builds it up, and then you have a stroke. You have kidney stones. Guess what they are? Yep, calcium. So, and wrinkles. Wrinkles are caused when calcium builds up in your skin, which causes your elastin to collapse. It's like having a bridge, the structure of a bridge collapsing. So your skin wrinkles. I don't want to tell you how old I am, but I don't have any wrinkles. It's crazy, and I think it's because of the K2. So K2 moves calcium out of all these places where it does not belong and shuttles it into your bones where it does belong, and which also prevents osteoporosis. Now, the reason why nobody in North America has K2 is it's so obvious when you think about it, but it's also a sad story. So the only places that you can get K2 from naturally from food are grass-fed animal protein, an odd dish called natto, which nobody in America eats because it's a Japanese dish. It's really strange. And algae. And I don't think anybody even knew K2 was an algae. I didn't until we did our lab tests. The chlorella in particular has your daily requirement of K2. So now that we know what K2 is, why don't we have it? And there's only 2 sources really in North America where you can get it. Why? Nobody knew about algae, so of course it's not there. So let's look at the grass-fed animal protein. What's happened there? Well, back in the 60s, the cattle and the chickens and everybody were on pastures, and guess what they were eating? Grass. Animals have a bacteria in their gut that allows them to convert the K1 that's in the grass to K2. So when we humans eat the chicken or the dairy or the beef or something, we get the K2 because it's in the animal flesh. Of course, if you're vegan, you're out of luck. But in the 70s, the farmers found out that if they fed the animals corn and put them in enclosures, they would get fat faster and they would make more money. So that's what they did. Guess what? No more K2 because corn doesn't have anything green in it. So immediately the rise of heart disease completely parallels the rise and the implementation of animals being fed corn. Crazy, huh? So because we don't have the bacteria that can convert the K1, you can eat a room full of kale and you'll never get a drop of K2. So that's why heart disease has escalated. Alzheimer's has escalated. It's because we don't have K2 in our diet. Now you can buy K2 supplements. Those are now available, but I will caution you that the K2 supplements are made from fermented chickpeas, and K2 is a very complicated vitamin. There's different categories of K2. They call them M1, M2, M3, and 4. So the kind that's in the supplement is called M7, which is okay, but the problem is the brain can only absorb M4, the variation of K2, M4, and that is in food. So it's in your grass-fed animal protein or your chlorella algae. So if you want to get your biggest bang for your buck, you should be taking M4 version of K2 because it will help all of your body, not just a part of your body. But if nothing else, just get K2 in you because it's the lack of it is just causing so much havoc with our health.
Wow.
I know, crazy, huh?
There's a lot I can go into here. One of the reasons why I became fascinated with algae is the presence of phytonutrients, but also the absence of anti-nutrients.
Correct.
Let's talk about the phytonutrients first, and then really explaining what a phytonutrient is and go down that route, and then we'll come back to the anti-nutrients afterwards.
Sure. Well, I'm just going to, a brief overview is that there's thousands and thousands of microscopic nutrients, of which phytonutrients are one, that when you eat a plant-based diet, or just when you eat anything green, there's harmonies and synergies that boost the immune system. So let's talk about, could be chlorophyll, for example, which is a very alkaline. Remember, I got into this because of my sister's doctor recommended an alkaline diet. So why is that so important? It doesn't matter whether you're going through chemotherapy. It's just your blood. A lot of people don't realize. Well, we all realize that your body temperature has to be 98.6 to be healthy. Well, there's another number that you need to be aware of. It's called the pH level of your blood, and your blood needs to be, I think it's 7.34 to be healthy. And that's kind of like the middle of the scale. The problem is when you eat acidic food like animal protein or dairy or processed foods or alcohol, or if you're stressed out, because that causes chemical reactions in your body that are also acidic. So when that happens, your body is so intelligent that it kind of goes red alert, red alert. Our blood pH is becoming more too acidic, and that you would die instantly if it became too acidic. So in its intelligence, what it does is it withdraws minerals, which are alkaline, from your bones, from your organs, anywhere it's stored. Your bones are where most of your calcium and your minerals are stored. So it withdraws the minerals instantly into your blood to balance out that pH. But if you do that frequently, over and over and over again, it's like not changing your tires on your car. If the tires wear down and wear down and wear down, eventually they're not very functional. Same thing. If you constantly withdraw these minerals where they're supposed to be doing important things and having actually important processes, it weakens your immune system. it's a real a hardship on your immune system. And so that causes your body to be not functioning properly, and that will lead you to sickness. Or if you're trying to recover from sickness, it makes it more difficult. And the algae is the most alkaline food in the world, so it facilitates healing because it not only populates your body with minerals, it prevents that pH level from ever changing. So it's very important to make sure that you've got the phytonutrients and the chlorophyll that you need to maintain your health. So that's why when we were talking about eggs earlier, I love eggs, but there's nothing green in there. There's no phytonutrients. Mother Nature has provided us with all the intelligence and all the food and all the nutrients we need. We just have to pay more attention to them. And the other thing is things like that are, I know we're going to talk about some of the anti-nutrients in plants, but there's also anti-nutrients in other things like, awful omega-6s like canola oil. And the way I describe canola oil is, there's receptors on your cells. And, when you have if the receptor spot is taken up by something like canola oil, which is so damaging, it's like someone stealing your parking spot. If the bad oil is there, the good oil can't get in. So it's not just putting the good stuff in your diet. You got to take the bad stuff out because the bad stuff's taking up your parking spot.
I'm going to steal that analogy from you at some point because I've explained why vegetable oil is just a horrible thing for everyone. Oh, and the best analogy I've heard so far is stealing the parking spot. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'll give you another one you're welcome to use. I refer to chlorella and also chlorophyll to a certain degree as giving your body a shower from the inside, because we all know you have to shower on the outside, but there's lots of garbage on the inside, and chlorella is like giving your body a shower on the inside.
If I take spirulina, for instance, first thing in the morning, and we have a lot of people listening to this that are cognitive ninjas, and one of the strategies that they use to enhance brain function is fasting. You take spirulina first thing in the morning, does it break your fast? Does it disrupt autophagy?
No, it's a beautiful thing. Although, if you want to do a long water fast, and I love fasting, and I love long-term fasting, I love intermittent fasting. It is, there's nothing like it. It's challenging if you've never done it before, but it does not, because there's no glucose, no sugar, no carbs, it does not break your fast. So it's particularly helpful with intermittent fasting, or if you're getting into the keto diet, and because, there's that keto flu, because now you have no carbs, so your body is kind of, getting rid of all the old stuff. So the spirulina, because it's energizing, lifts your brain focus. Most people are expecting the energy physically, but they don't anticipate the mental focus. We have brain surgeons that use this stuff. So it does not interfere with your fast. You can use your meters to test your ketones or your glucose. Nothing changes. So it's really terrific. And we recommend, when I started, we were working with athletes, so we were recommending 30 of the little tablets per dosage. But now we're working with consumers, and quite honestly, they're so nutrient deprived that even 5 or 10 will boost their health and satisfy their hunger for a little while. More is always better. It's like eating a salad. You can't have too much of this stuff. Mm-hmm. I eat probably over 100 easy of chlorella every day, and have for 8 years. And people usually think I'm 20 years younger at least than what I really am, which is kind of cool. So I would. Now you could also take the chlorella, which is my preference flavor-wise, but it will not give you that boost of energy or the satisfy your hunger. And it's odd because the nutrients are very similar, but again, it's these harmonies between the different nutrients and micronutrients that have different effects on your body. So spirulina is definitely the one to take in the morning to start your day. Put it in a smoothie if you want, if you're not fasting. And take it anytime. Take it at lunch. Take it at 2 o'clock. Take it before your workout. But also, just a little tip: don't expect lightning bolts from the sky. This is not a stimulant. There's no caffeine. There's no sugar. The best way we describe it is you feel fresh. You feel like you just had a great night's sleep. You're just alert. You may not even notice it, but you will notice that, hey, if you're on a workout, hey, I lifted more and wasn't even trying, or, hey, I got through a whole day and went for a 2-hour run afterwards. It just has that very subtle whispering non-fatigue effect, mentally and physically.
It seems like a very interesting solution to people who are both trying to solve for body composition as well as the benefits of fasting, because with spirulina being so protein dense, if you can keep your protein up and have it be muscle sparing in a way, that's, I mean, it's a fantastic solution, actually.
Well, the other thing I want to point out is, so a serving of 30 tablets only has 5 grams of protein. So again, if you're ketogenic, it will not won't throw you out of ketosis. It also does not activate the mTOR pathway. This is a really important issue because a lot of protein when you're younger is good because you're building, mTOR pathway builds muscle and builds cells. But as you get older, because we all have more cancer cells in us as we get older, what's happening is that extra protein is being used to activate more of the mTOR pathway is activating more cellular cancer cell growth. Not a good thing. So you can have, again, as much of the algae as you like with all the protein and no activation of the mTOR pathway. So very happy about that.
So did I have the muscle sparing part wrong, or does it still?
No, you're right, but it doesn't. Because you're getting the protein, so you're getting the muscle correct, but it's not. I call it an adaptogen. It just knows what to do. It's intelligent food. It just knows what to do in your body, and it's particularly spirulina, but also chlorella. It can be used for newborns, athletes, moms, soccer kids, granddads, pets. Animals love this stuff, so it's the safest form of food you can ever give anybody. And in Japan, when babies are born and they're preemies and they can't digest mother's milk, they have found that the spirulina in water is the only thing that keeps them alive. And I was always curious about that. And then a couple of years ago, I was looking at the nutrient profile, particularly the amino acid profile of mother's breast milk, colostrum. And I thought, gosh, that looks awfully familiar. So I scooted back to our nutrient chart. And wouldn't you know, the amino acid profile of mother's breast milk is virtually identical to spirulina. Plus, spirulina has an amino acid or a essential fatty acid called GLA, which the only other place there's more GLA is mother's breast milk. And the reason why it's in mother's breast milk is because this is the essential fatty acid that helps the baby's brain grow, because it doubles or triples in size within the first couple of years. So, we all need brain health, and we all need our brain to be functioning properly. And so it's in the spirulina along with all the same aminos in mother's breast milk. And mother's breast milk is known as the perfect food, nature's perfect food. So I consider algae the same way. And they're the two foods that you could live on forever. Algae never goes bad. An interesting little side note is that it also never dies. So you can grow algae, and if the growing conditions, like the sunshine disappears or the rain stops, any other crop, corn, tomatoes, doesn't matter what it is, will die. Not algae. It just goes dormant. They have documented it up to 40 years going dormant, and then it will start growing again. And I read an interesting thing in the National Geographic. There was a team of people that went up to the Antarctic and they chopped some ice and they carbon dated to be like 3.5 billion years old, and they found some algae in there. So just out of curiosity, they took the algae and put it in some petri dishes and put some water in it. Wouldn't you know, it started growing again. So it never dies and it never goes bad. You could buy our algae and save it for 40 years, and we have to put an expiry date on it, but it technically never goes bad. And that's why I want us to grow and be successful, so we could give this stuff away to disaster areas and help people in other parts of the world have access to this wonderfully rich, nutritionally dense food that could change things for them. So it's pretty neat stuff.
Catharine, one last question before we go into the final 6. And something you said earlier, it kind of flagged an interest to me. 40 years ago, the UN investigated spirulina as kind of a solution to world hunger in a way. Why do you think we haven't made that much progress with spirulina in 40 years?
Well, it's politics, it's business, it's branding, it's education. I've committed myself to being a cheerleader for algae, and I'll do whatever it takes, as long as it takes, because I'm aware of that. In Asia, people drive by algae farms. It's completely normal, just like we drive by corn farms. So it's part of the lifestyle there. And I actually am going to a big meeting next week in New York, and because people were saying, well, why isn't algae known here? Well, it's not part of our lifestyle. We never see an algae farm. And so people think it's weird. Well, 20 years ago, people thought stevia was weird, but it had been around for, hundreds of years in South America. People thought chia seed was weird. Well, the Aztecs used it for decades or centuries. Same with quinoa. There's lots of foods that are very common in other parts of the world. But if it hasn't been introduced to America and hasn't been packaged and branded and explained properly, Americans just think it's downright weird and they don't want any part of it. So part of my effort has been to try to make algae less weird looking. It's not pond scum. It's a very nutrient dense food. And so the poor UN, they're a political organization. They have their scientists who know the same nutritional value that the scientists here know. But like I said, the scientists only talk to each other. So if I can get the ball rolling in America and start helping people see the nutrient value of algae, that it's not weird, and I'm trying my best to package it in ways that are friendly, we can get the momentum going. And there are algae conferences, but again, they're only attended by scientists. But we can get it going in the mainstream, just like CBD oil just exploded. Well, I want the same thing to algae. Then we'll have leverage. Then we'll have budget. Then we'll have access to the politicians. This will just take off. But it's probably going to be another 5 years of heavy lifting to get to that point. But anybody who starts taking this, I promise you, you will feel different. You can eliminate other foods. You can eliminate other vitamins. You will just it will simplify your life. You will help the earth because it's sustainable. You get 10 crops a year of algae. Other crops you get 1, and there's no negative footprint, no carbon footprint whatsoever. It's you'll save the oceans even. So,
and the way you packaged it. And the way you packaged it makes it easy to travel with. And for those listening who travel quite a bit, it's a much, much better alternative to plain food. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and we sell the bags on our website, ENERGYbits.com. There's 1,000 tablets in a bag, but we give you a little empty tin inside that you can fill up and always take with you. And then we also sell individually packed what I call single serving. So there's 30 tablets in a single serving, and we sell those on Amazon and through doctors and nutritionists. At Christmas time, we're going to sell them on our box as well. So we try to make it very accessible and very easy to travel with, because for that reason, people are all over the world and they need to throw things in their carry-on and their briefcase and whatever. So we make it as easy as possible, but it's really high quality stuff.
Catharine, I want to transition now into what I call the Superhuman 6. So final 6 rapid fire questions here.
Okay.
Favorite piece of technology which you've purchased in the past year?
Well, probably this camera that's allowing me to talk to you. I'm not a big technology person, so I was thinking about that, and I don't know. I haven't really purchased any big technology other than my little camera or the microphone. But I couldn't live without Uber. I'll say that. I'm about to buy the iPhone 11, and the funniest thing, you'll probably chuckle, is I bought myself a new fridge. And if I leave the door open, it beeps. So, if it didn't beep, it might run itself out. So I was happy that they included technology in my new fridge. So that's the best I can do. Beautiful.
How do you unwind?
Well, I work 16-hour days like most entrepreneurs, so there's not a lot of time to unwind. But I like to do yoga. I do hot yoga. I walk outside. I love to do a 3-mile walk. And then I do little high intensity workouts about 2 or 3 times a week. So And I read. I'm a big reader, so those are my go-tos.
What's the best thing you've done to enhance your productivity?
Well, I do a lot of research, as you can tell, and I run the company. So the thing that I have found, if I have a deadline or I have to go deep, I just don't read my emails. It will take me sometimes a day to catch up, but if I have to do some serious thinking, it's too distracting. That's my tip. Definitely don't read your emails.
Favorite place to go on vacation?
Well, I haven't taken a serious vacation in about 10 years, but top of my list is Costa Rica. I'm eager to get there. It's very clean and healthy, and I love being outdoors, and I love spas and, as I said, yoga. So that's where I want to go. I was just in LA for a week, and I love the buzz of LA. So anytime I can get outside is a good thing. With trees, I'm a tree person.
What book has significantly impacted your life and your ability to show up and perform in it?
Well, I have a book and actually a primer that some people may have heard of it. It's been around for 50 years. I'm reading it for the second time now because it's pretty heavy going, but it's called A Course in Miracles. And it's, I think, about 2,000 or 3,000 pages.
Wow.
So it's not light reading, and the pages are thin like the Bible. So it just helps you think. If your life isn't, if you aren't leading the life and feeling joy, and life just seems too hard, it's because there's probably a filter. You're seeing the world a certain way, and this helps you understand how to maybe remove that filter so that, you know, all the goodness that should be coming to you, if your intentions are well-meaning and from the heart, will support you. It's a hard book to read. So there's another book, and you can buy these on Amazon. And the publisher is called Foundation for Inner Peace. And but to get you started, there's a shorter, much shorter book called A Course in Miracles Made Easy. Kind of like your cheat sheet on the book, and it's only about 150 pages by a man by the name of Alan Cohen, and he kind of summarizes everything that's in the big Papa Bear version, and it's like I say, it's heavy reading. It's hard to carry on an airplane because it weighs a frigging 2 pounds, but it's very powerful. And I'll give you one more because they kind of all work together. It's called Money and the Law of Attraction. The authors are Esther and Jerry Hicks, and it's channeled knowledge from a group of whatever beings called Abraham, and it's kind of related to the art of attraction and all that sort of stuff. So Money and the Law. So it was also an interesting book, much lighter to carry on an airplane. Also on Amazon.
Catharine, thank you again for all this time today and the education you provided us. Look, I find it a fantastic thing to bring on planes, especially. But where can people find out more about you?
Sure. Well, we are on. You can find us on the website. It's www.ENERGYbits.com, and we sell our algae tablets in these large bags of 1,000 tablets. The regular price for a bag is $120, but I have a discount code, a 20% discount code for all your listeners. The discount code is superhuman, all one word. It can be uppercase, lowercase, doesn't matter. You'll find it in the checkout page. So anytime, not just like today or tomorrow, anytime you purchase anything from our website and use superhuman, you'll get 20% off. Now, if you're not ready for a full bag and you want to just test it out, we also sell single servings on Amazon. So you can try it in a small quantity. We also sell in America through doctors, nutritionists, chiropractors, spas, functional medicine, nationwide, and they're listed on our website, so you can find one that's nearby you. And we're very active on social, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. It's all at ENERGYbits, so you can we have lots of fun prizes and contests and giveaways. So I would encourage you to come, especially to Instagram. So that's where you can find us. And we'd love to work with you, help you, educate you, whatever it takes.
And your Instagram account is fantastic. Also, thank you for the discount. We'll link to all of this in the show notes at decodingsuperhuman.com/ENERGYbits. Catharine, thank you.
You're very welcome. Wow, be well.
I love when someone takes adversity and turns it into opportunity. And that's exactly what Catharine has done here. Her mission, her goal of making algae more readily available, educating people on algae, is a noble one. I've got to meet Catharine at Summit this year, and she is just a fantastic person. I encourage you to check out her products, but also check out the show notes, decodingsuperhuman.com/ENERGYbits. And again, thank you, Superhumans, for tuning in today. And if you enjoyed the episode, head over to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating, and share it with a friend. Share it with 2 friends. It's greatly appreciated. Have an epic day.